Lucy died on the 29th of September. I was with her. I held her hand. And I can tell you with absolute certainty, the thing that died in that bed was not entirely Lucy anymore.
September 1897. London, a city of 6 million people, the largest city on earth. Gaslit streets, horse-drawn carriages, the smell of coal smoke. And the Thames, somewhere in it walking, watching, planning, was Count Dracula. And the city had no idea.
Jonathan and I returned from Budapest in late August. He was still weak, still waking at night from dreams he would not describe, but he was home. We married quietly, quickly, in a small church near his office. I thought the worst was behind us. I was wrong.
I began to piece it together in September. The ship, the boxes, the property Dracula had purchased in London, an old house called Carfax, right next to a lunatic asylum. I had handled the paperwork myself. I had delivered everything he needed. I had helped him come here.
Jonathan could not sleep with that knowledge. He began writing down everything. Everything he had seen, everything he remembered from the castle, every detail from his diary. He sent copies to Van Helsing in Amsterdam. He told Mina everything, all of it. Every night in the castle. The boxers, the women, the wall.
He told me everything in one sitting, 4 hours. I did not interrupt him once. When he finished, I sat with it for a long time. Then I said, "We have to find Van Helsing." Jonathan said Van Helsing was already on his way.
Professor Abraham Van Helsing was 62 years old, Dutch, and the most knowledgeable man in Europe on the subject of diseases of the blood. He was also, as he would later explain to the assembled group, the only person in England who fully understood what had come ashore at Whitby.
I have spent 30 years studying the undead, not because I believed in them, because I needed to know if such a thing were possible, and I have concluded it is not only possible, it has happened before, many times, and it is happening now, in this city, to your friend.
He said it so calmly, as if he were describing the weather, as if the thing that had held me prisoner for weeks, the thing I had seen climbing down walls and sleeping in boxes of earth, was simply a subject to be studied and dealt with. I was grateful for his calm. I had none left of my own.
The Count is not a ghost. He is not a spirit. He is a being of flesh, old flesh, corrupted flesh, sustained by the blood of the living. He has weaknesses. He cannot cross running water unaided. He cannot enter a home without invitation. He cannot bear garlic, or the crucifix, or the host. He sleeps in his native earth, and he can be killed. I want to be very clear about that. He can be killed.
He can be killed. I wrote those words in my diary that night and underlined them 3 times because I needed to believe them, because Lucy was already dying, and because something had begun to happen to me at night that I did not yet have words for.
Lucy Westenra had been Mina's closest friend since childhood. She was 22 years old, warm and bright, and loved by everyone who knew her. By September, she was barely recognizable, pale as bone, eyes too wide, sleeping through the days. walking the nights. The marks on her throat had never healed.
I am so tired. That is all I can say. I am so tired, and the nights are so long, and sometimes when I wake up I am not in my bed and I do not know how I got to where I am, and there is a smell like the sea, like something old, and I feel almost like I do not want it to stop.
Van Helsing did everything he could. Transfusions, garlic at every window, a crucifix above her bed, Dr. Seward watching through the night. It was not enough. Whatever came to Luce's window each night was patient. It had been patient for centuries. It could wait.
She is not dying of illness. She is being drained, slowly and deliberately. He comes to her window and she lets him in because he has already made it so that she cannot refuse. This is what he does. He does not take everything at once. He takes a little and a little and a little more until there is nothing left that is still hers.
Lucy Westenra died on the 29th of September, 3 days later. Children in the neighborhood began reporting being approached at night by a beautiful pale woman who offered them sweets and asked them to come with her. The children called her the Bloofer Lady. Van Helsing read the newspaper account and said nothing for a very long time.
She is not at rest. She cannot be at rest. Not yet. What we must do to give her peace, I will explain. But I warn you, it will be difficult, and it must be done before we go after him.
While Van Helsing led the others to Lucy's tomb, Mina stayed behind. She had been feeling strange for several weeks, tired in ways she could not explain, finding herself at windows in the night without knowing how she got there, dreaming of fog and the smell of the sea, and a voice that called her name in the dark.
I did not tell Jonathan. I told myself it was grief. I told myself it was the strain of everything that had happened. I told myself many things. The way Jonathan had told himself things in the castle in the beginning, before he stopped being able to.
On the night the others went to Lucy's tomb, Jonathan woke at 3 a.m. and reached for Mina. She was not in the bed. He found her at the open window, standing in the cold. Her eyes were open. She did not respond to her name, and on her throat, just visible in the moonlight, 2 small marks. Fresh.
I knew those marks. I'd seen them on Lucy for weeks before she died. I stood there in the dark and I looked at my wife's throat and I understood that we had run out of time, that while we had been watching Lucy, he had already begun with Mina.
When I came back to myself, Jonathan was holding me. He was not crying. He was past crying. He was simply holding on. And I thought, with the part of me that was still entirely mine, that I needed to tell Van Helsing tonight, before whatever was happening to me went any further.
Van Helsing gathered them all the next morning. Jonathan, Mina, Dr. Seward, Arthur Holmwood, Quincy Maurice, 5 people who had lost Lucy and nearly lost each other. 5 people who now knew exactly what they were facing. Van Helsing looked at each of them in turn and said,
He knows we are hunting him. He is not frightened. He has lived for 500 years, and no one has ever stopped him. He thinks we cannot. He is wrong. But we must move tonight, because every night we wait Mina pays for it.
Next time, the final hunt. They raid Carfax. They find the boxers. They drive Dracula back toward Transylvania. And Mina, connected to him now in ways she cannot control, becomes the compass that points them toward the end.